Hello and welcome to Edited with Kaveree Bamzai. I have with me Monica Dogra, who's just come off a fantastic performance in The Married Woman. You can see the poster here. It is an amazing role based on a wonderful novel. Not exactly the same as the novel.
It's an adaptation.
Exactly. Yes. So tell me, when this came to you, had you read the novel? Did you read the novel after that? And what were your thoughts?
So I hadn't read the novel when it came to me. I didn't even read the script. I first met the writers and then they did a narration. And then after that, I received the script. And then after that, I read the book. But from the get-go, the very first meeting when I met the writer, I was enchanted. I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. Particularly because I've done so many things and they've been all over the place if you talk about them. But the theme that kind of binds them all for me is about the theme that binds all of my work together is opening up spaces, opening minds, and feminism. So when I DJ, I play feminist music, whether or not people notice. When I did The Doers, it was all about uplifting artists who never had a platform.
Right.
When I'm on the stage, it was about drawing out these intimate stories from kids from all over India. So for me, opening up minds and spaces through art is so, so important. And so out of the gate, when I heard about a script that's about two women who unexpectedly fall in love, they're very different from one another. You'd never expect for them to fall in love with each other. I was like, yeah, telling a story like this will open up people's minds.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And how wonderful was it to be in a space with people who thought like you? How rare is that in the industry?
It's so rare. It's so rare. And you also, like I said, when you are an actor, you don't have too much control. Particularly when, for me, I'm an actor who took many years to come back to I don't know if I'm at the forefront, but I'm visible right now. My mom said this to me the other day too, like, aren't you worried you're going to become invisible? People will forget about you. And I'm like, I don't know what to say to that. So yes, there's almost like you can just say yes to anything that comes along because you want to remain visible.
Right.
Or you can be choosy, and I've been given that hat to wear, that label of being choosy. And I wouldn't even say, like I said, inside the theater, I am not just choosy. Yes, I am, in the sense that I don't say yes to everything. But even when I have chosen projects, I've been replaced last minute, or the film never released. A few times I was replaced in things that went on to become massive hits, and my heart shattered, That was very hard for me. Yeah, I feel like you don't know if you're going to end up with a director who's sensitive, with a production house that will actually include you. You could shoot something but not be included in promotions. There are all kinds of iterations of you don't know what you're going to get. I met Ekta yesterday. Ekta was so kind. I looked at her across the dinner table and I was like, you know what I love about you is you speak to everyone the same way.
Yeah.
Her staff,
That's
the
so
pundit,
rare.
me, anyone, she speaks to with respect and she speaks to like with an interest. What's your story? Who are you? I love that. I didn't know I was going to end up with an Ekta Kapur like that, Ridhi, I love. Sahir Raza is the most incredible man. Like, he is the hero behind this show, honestly. So yeah, I feel really fortunate.
Yeah.
Gifts. Even you, that you're hosting the screening. It could go any way.
Yeah.
Often when you're interviewed, the questions, the people there, it doesn't feel right.
Right.
But this feels so right. Like, you feel so right.
And Monica, really, how hard is it to keep, you earlier talked about the softness, and as an artist, you have to have that softness. You have to have that willingness to be open to everything. How tough is it to keep that softness, to keep that vulnerability alive in such a tough industry? I know other industries are tough as well, but this is particularly tough because it's so judgmental of your appearance, and that's so tough to take.
It is. I say it's so ironic. It's like, I sometimes say God is the greatest joker. It's like, here's this thing, And in order to be good at it, you have to be wide open, vulnerable, have really thin skin, feel everything. But then have thick skin, don't be vulnerable, don't let anything affect you.
Right.
Screw the haters. It's so weird. Like, I don't know. I feel almost as if, and I keep talking about the great writer, but like fame almost avoided me because it would have killed me. You know, like I've gotten just enough that I can handle. And even that much has been hard for me to handle.
Right. Because everything out there is wired to, you know, objectify. And we've seen that so much among young women, older women, a wrinkle here, you know, whatever, a crow's foot or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever.
It just, you know, it becomes something that you address, you repeat. Everything can become a headline.
Yeah. For me, luckily, I was never introduced into the industry as like the beauty. So I didn't feel pressured to be, to always position myself as beautiful, but I felt hurt when I wasn't received that way, just because I'm really an overly sensitive person. But I will say, it's like, for example, Ridhi and I did an interview yesterday, and one of the journalists asked us, so, you know, there are two female leads, which one of you has the bright future, you know? And we're both like, you know, when do you ever hear that between men? Just constantly pitted against other women. It's like almost as if we subconsciously have a tendency towards wanting to either minimize a woman, extract a headline from a woman, or pit us against each other. You know, and what was interesting too is that we were in this room full of men. And then suddenly there was like a club of women who came in, and the more that women took up space in the room, the more the men became like apologetic. Like, is it okay if I say something? You know, it's like
so nice to see that in the other gender.
I mean, it was nice, but I was also like, can you imagine if we were that sensitive?
Yeah.
If in every room we walked into, because we're often in rooms full of men, if we were like, is it all right if I say something? No, we have to just come and be bulletproof all the time. And that's exhausting. Because I also said this inside. I've made a career out of being explicitly honest, and I am actually by nature an extremely vulnerable person. I'm defined by the fact that I really do care, you know. I seem very different from what I actually am. And that I care so much has made this journey at times extremely painful because I'm invested in everything that I do. But also, it's taught me how to anchor in myself. It's taught me that no love can replace self-love. And how much I need to work on that, you know? I think we all have our
Absolutely.
own version.
I think we all suffer from that imposter syndrome. We think that we're not good enough. I think that's a feminine condition, you know? But talk a little about your spiritual practice, Monica. How have you managed to ground yourself in, you know, buffeted by all these winds and all these storms? How have you managed to ground yourself?
I hit a moment in my life where I realized that I had done everything that I had set out to do. You know, I grew up without money. Like, I've been a bartender, I've waited tables, I've cleaned toilets for ad agencies, I've worked at Forever 21. I always said, I'll become an artist and I'll make money and people will respect me and I'll play shows all over the world and I'll have a nice house that like makes me feel comfortable and warm. I ticked the boxes and I wasn't happy. So then that's when my spiritual practice kind of woke up, because I realized that basically once you're born, you begin dying. I know that sounds a little tragic, but it's like everything is a process of letting go. And we think that in this life we have like a set of things that once we put them in place that we'll feel fulfilled. But then the reality is there's no fulfillment in anything external. So I'm really lucky. I study with a monk. I study with a few monks.
Really? A Tibetan monk or
a Himalayan monk. I initiated I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's strange that some days I play a gig in a club and then I speak to a Swami who lives in Gangotri, like right after I get off stage. I used to suffer from chronic strep throat. This particular monk, actually, since I've met him, I haven't gotten strep throat in 5 years. I spent my birthday in Gangotri in his mutt, in his little hut. So my grandfather was a pandit. I have this inbuilt thing in me anyway, but I had a resistance to religion. Anything that divides, I've had a resistance to. But there's so much beauty in the philosophies of this country. They're actually the most complex. It's the most stunning wisdom I've ever read. It's almost like this hidden treasure that we don't tap into. So the more I tapped into it, the more I realized I was developing that equanimous benevolence that gave me the peace that I've always been seeking, no matter what happens.
Yeah. And it's something that you have to keep working at.
Oh, yeah.
You can't let go. You can't do it for a year or 2 years and then say, okay, I'm fine now and I don't need this anymore. So that's tough as well, isn't it?
It is. I haven't meditated in like 4 days and I feel like I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, you feel that, don't you?
Yeah.
How has it affected your art?
My spirituality?
Yes.
Tremendously. Yeah. I used to make choices based on survival, like money.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, it's important. I wouldn't say I've ever like sold out. I've never sold out, but I've done things that don't really represent who I am. And now, the more that I wake up spiritually, and I love this, my teacher says, I can talk about him, he wouldn't mind, Anand Krishna. He's a guru, he lives in Indonesia, and he's very political and openly political. But he says that awakening is not a state, it's a path.
Yeah.
And I love that because, and then my other teacher says, once you begin cleansing, you realize there's no end to cleansing. Yeah. So what's interesting about why the lotus as a symbol is because this intelligence is not intelligence of the mind, it's intelligence of the heart, and it blooms slowly. So it's like the more that you meditate, the more certain things, they just drop away, like they're just not important anymore. So I stopped drinking maybe 6 years ago. Not that I judge people who drink, it's okay. I've been vegan for a really long time. A lot of my life I dedicate to seva. I'm designing my life in a way that isn't necessarily to become this famous thing, commodity.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested in that anymore.
Yeah.
And that's hard because I haven't gotten work in a while.
Yeah.
And now I am again, which is beautiful in a show like this that's so aligned.
Yeah.
But things like, why aren't you an influencer on your Instagram?
Yeah.
Like, you're not interesting enough, content creators.
Videos.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you sing more?
Yeah. So, and that's tricky, because you don't want to become invisible, as they say. But for me, when I finally do a show like this, I feel vindicated. I have a podcast coming out. It's called Reverence.
Oh.
It's conversations like this one.
Wonderful.
It takes maybe a longer time to define yourself so clearly, especially when I could just be a face, an item girl. I don't know if I could anymore, but maybe I could have.
No, one of the decent things about the industry currently is that it's become less ageist, especially about women. So I think that's the one thing that
there are such interesting roles for women now, and there's so many women who are female actors who are just phenomenal.
Yeah, and they're getting an opportunity to do things that they never did, perhaps when they were younger, your age maybe, and they're doing it now in their 50s. Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Yeah. So do you feel empowered by other people's experiences as well?
I feel when I hear things like that, I think I should know more. But part of my spiritual practice is I stay really clean, because if I let something in, then I let too much in, and then it takes me too much time to clean. So I don't pay attention a lot. You know, I think also as an Indian girl, I was wired to compare myself. It's taken me a really long time to stop doing that. I'm still working on it. You know, comparing my career to someone else's career, the way I look, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm so happy when I see great art and great artists, and I thank them for their inspiration, and then I just try to tunnel vision on what I'm doing and what I need to accomplish.
Let's talk a little about the feminine and the masculine side, because we talked a little about it inside, and you know the series also explores that. How much of you do you feel is feminine and how much is masculine, or does that also change? Doesn't it? It's fluid. It's so dynamic.
It changes day to day for me. I have some days when I wake up and I feel, I don't know, I feel more masculine. And I have days when I wake up and I feel more feminine. And then I have days when I'm really aware of the way the world perceives me. Perceives me. That's something that I'm not the greatest at, actually. I sometimes get really surprised. I'm like, oh, I don't even see myself this way, you know? But yeah, I think, you know, the more that I travel, or even when you meet monks or great masters, they're almost like beyond gender. You know? And I'd say from moment to moment, situation to situation, we have to activate these different qualities. You can label them feminine, masculine, but they're qualities of energy. And a room may require a softer place for me to listen, to receive, to hold. That's a feminine quality. A roommate, you know, when I'm on the street, I think all women know you have to activate that masculine, where you're like, you know, like you have to be kind of in that space. And I also feel from how do you say this? Like creating a safer nation for all of us to exist in harmony with one another, I think means inching towards, hopefully, where we all think like this. You know, and then you begin to understand that sexuality is also it's not black or white. You know, you may have a sexual exploration. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are another label. But how wonderful would it be to have permission to actually explore what you might like, what you might want to experience. And what astounds me actually is in the West, when I meet the youth of today, these things are not even a part of their social constructs. They're so free. They're so free.
They're so gender fluid as well.
I mean, schools have gender fluid bathrooms. It's not complicated. We've complicated things by placing such intense borders and walls and definitions.
There's a lovely line in the series which says, we keep our politics dirty and our sex clean. Isn't that so true?
It's so true. At the risk, but yes, it's true.
Talking about politics, I can't let you go without talking a little about politics. I know it's a tricky subject, but really because the politics of this series is very intense, and it is based at a time when really we were at the cusp of who we are now. You know, you can see everything that went wrong with us happening during this time, and you see Asta and Pipika, your characters, living through that. You know, when you look around and you talk about love jihad, and you know, you have characters in the show who are married to Hindus married to Muslims. How do you see this now in the current situation in the country that we're in?
I feel like I'm so scared to even say something, and just that much indicates where we're at as a nation.
Exactly. I have to think twice before asking that question. You have to think thrice before answering that question.
For better or worse, we exist in a country where I think we've become more and more divisive and more polarized. I am not a political person, but I am a humanitarian.
Yeah.
I believe in protecting individuals' rights to choose, and I believe in offering if I stand in a position of privilege, I want to offer my hand to those less fortunate than me, as and when I can. I have the privilege of a public platform, maybe not as large as other people's, and I've used it, and I've paid the price for it. It's kind of like this weird subversive thing where those who speak up are received with such a heavy hand from where I don't even know that it makes us become quiet. So I often say to those who remain quiet, who stand in positions of power, that I don't blame them, because you don't know what's going to happen to you if you do speak up. However, there is a strength in numbers. There's a strength. Those of us who carry the privileges of even like watching this, speaking English, whatever, that we stand to gain if we become making activism kind of the thread that we weave the fabric of our lives with. Rather than like it's something that we do when we take to the streets, let's live a more active life where we decide to pay people more in positions that are marginalized, where we consciously choose art that creates a more open society, where we shop more local, where we post in a way that's about relevant things that matter to the political climate of this country. If we begin making these kind of very easy, subtle choices to live more active lives, I think we'll begin to see change more readily than we're seeing it right now. It's only when bombs fire and millions of people take to the streets do people kind of, because also that's the other thing about living life in India is it's like our homes are so beautiful, but as soon as you exit your house, it's like, that is a great metaphor.
Yeah.
So we've learned to protect ourselves by building these bubbles. These
gated communities.
Yeah, and then slowly, I won't say who, but the powers that be, do their thing in changing things without us even noticing it. And hats off to the people, people who are really fighting for the freedoms of this country, to protect the democracy of this country. When really, why I love the mysticism, the wisdom, Vedic wisdom, the philosophy of this country is because some of the most liberal, radical minds have been birthed from this soil, and somewhere we cut the cord, and I think we just need to take that cord back. Like, go back to the ones, to the writers, to the philosophers, to the freedom fighters of this nation. Because of their hard work, we stand to say that we're a democracy right now. Let's go back to the things that they wrote, and let's recenter, because that's who we are. That's our foundation.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Monica Dogra, for being with us and for speaking so beautifully.
Thank you.
I would ask you to sing a song, but I don't know if you're in the mood.
Yeah, okay. I wanna be free, so free, like a feather blowing through the breeze, like the bird in the trees, like the dolphin in the seas. I wanna fly high, so high, like an eagle flying in the sky. And when my time has come, I'll let it all go with a sigh. Pasha Mama, coming home to the place where I belong.
Wonderful.
Whatever
Couldn't have asked for a better end to a wonderful day. And I hope you have much more work like a married woman. It's just the married woman. It's just perfect.
Thank you.
I need to see more of you.
And I want to see more of you. You've been so excellent.
Thank you so much.